All right, so you know those oarfish, the ones showing up off the coast of Mexico?
Yeah.
And everyone is like freaking out about earthquakes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we wanted to like deep dive into that a little bit.
It's really interesting, actually.
Yeah, it is.
It kind of brings together the whole like folklore and science thing
Totally.
because like in Japan, right?
Yeah.
They call those oarfish messengers from the palace of the dragon god.
Whoa.
Yeah, and they say that they're supposed to warn about earthquakes and tsunamis.
So spooky.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we have these recent sightings in Mexico, right?
Right.
And it's like a monster movie is playing out in real life.
Yeah.
But is there like any actual science behind it? Like, are these things actually living seismographs?
Okay, so like the theory is that oarfish, they live so deep down,
Yeah.
they might be like super sensitive to
Huh.
like the tiniest shifts in the tectonic plates.
Hmm.
And like maybe those shifts could release electromagnetic waves or like other signals
Yeah.
that they're picking up before, like we do.
Oh, so they sense it first.
And that sends them like fleeing up to the surface.
Makes sense.
But it's not quite that simple.
I really.
Yeah, because like what kind of senses are we even talking about here?
Yeah, like how could they even pick up on like such subtle changes way down there?
Right. And like while some fish are sensitive to like electromagnetic fields,
Huh.
we haven't really found that same connection with oarfish.
Hmm.
And the whole fleeing to the surface idea,
Yeah.
a lot of times they're found washed ashore already dead.
Oh.
So it's not like they're like intentionally trying to escape or anything.
Okay, so maybe they're not like consciously predicting earthquakes,
Right.
but could it be that like the environmental shifts like kind of disorient them
Possibly.
and then they end up in shallower waters and end up beaching?
Yeah, like think about it.
Yeah.
The deep ocean is their comfort zone.
Right.
So if something throws that off, like changes in pressure, water temperature, even like the composition of the water, like
Yeah.
who knows what kind of impact that might have on them.
That's a good point.
It's true.
It's like easy to latch onto the earthquake idea
Oh, yeah.
because it's a good story, right?
Totally.
But like you said, the ocean is massive and we barely know anything about it.
Exactly. And this is kind of what brings us back to those recent sightings in Mexico.
Okay.
You have to look at the bigger picture, you know.
Yeah.
The Eastern Pacific, where these sightings were, is like a super active region.
Okay.
Lots of shifting currents, upwellings of like nutrient-rich water volcanic activity.
Whoa. So like maybe those oarfish were just caught in some unusual current or something?
Could be.
Or like maybe they were following a food source that got like messed up by something going on underwater?
That's definitely more likely than them having some like mystical connection to earthquake.
Okay. Okay, but hold on.
Yeah.
Let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
There are historical accounts of oarfish sightings like right before earthquakes.
Sure, but just because two things happen around the same time
Yeah.
doesn't mean that one caused the other.
Oh, right. Correlation doesn't equal causation.
Exactly. Like if you see a black cat cross your path and then trip and fall,
Uh-huh.
you wouldn't blame the cat, right?
Probably not unless it was one of those sneaky ninja cats.
Uh-huh. Good point.
But yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, we're really good at seeing patterns even if they aren't really there.
I know. It's like our brains are wired for it.
Especially with things that scare us,
Totally.
like natural disasters.
Yeah?
We want to try and make sense of things we can't predict.
Right.
And sometimes that leads us to some pretty weird places.
That's true.
Like with those oarfish sightings, right?
Yeah.
They kind of become this like focal point for all our worries about earthquakes.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But like, what if instead of like fearing them or, you know, giving them all this supernatural power,
Right.
we kind of approach them with more like a sense of wonder, curiosity.
Like, what if instead of them being a bad omen,
Yeah.
they're like an invitation to explore, you know,
Exactly.
to learn more about this crazy world under the waves?
Like, imagine all the stuff the deep ocean is hiding.
Oh, right.
Like all the crazy life forms we don't even know about yet.
It's kind of wild to think about.
The oarfish is just one piece of that whole puzzle.
Yeah.
And each sighting like gives us a little more information about how this crazy system works.
It really makes you realize how much we don't know. Huh.
Totally.
But it's also kind of exciting at the same time.
Absolutely.
Like there's so much left to figure out.
And those discoveries could be like super important, not just for understanding the ocean, but for understanding like our whole planet.
Right. And how we're affecting it.
Exactly.
You mentioned warning signs earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Were you talking about like climate change?
Yeah, climate change is definitely like a big factor.
Makes sense.
We know that rising ocean temperatures and like the acidification is messing with marine ecosystems.
Right.
And that includes like the deep sea habitats too.
So it's not crazy to think that all those changes could be affecting how oarfish act too.
Yeah, definitely a possibility.
So these sightings could be telling us about the effects of climate change, even way down there in the deep ocean.
It's possible, and it just shows how connected everything is.
Yeah.
Like what happens in the deep doesn't just stay down there.
Right, it affects all of us.
It can totally ripple out and impact us all.
Okay, so back to those oarfish in Mexico.
Yeah.
What else could be going on there?
Hmm.
We've talked about currents and food and climate change.
Right.
Anything else that might explain why they showed up right there?
Well, the Eastern Pacific is also known for like its underwater volcanoes.
Oh, yeah, I forget about those sometimes.
We kind of forget that the ocean floor is like a whole landscape down there.
Yeah.
With volcanoes and hydrothermal vents and all that crazy stuff.
That's true.
And all that stuff could be like affecting how the oarfish behave.
In what way?
Well, like, say an underwater volcano erupts.
Yeah.
That could release gases or heat.
Okay.
That could totally change the environment around there.
I see.
And like maybe disorient the oarfish or even hurt them.
It's wild to think about all that going on down there.
I know, right?
Like a whole other world.
It really is.
But how do we even study these things?
Yeah.
They aren't exactly hanging out in aquariums.
That's for sure.
So how do we do it?
It's definitely tough.
Yeah.
But we're figuring out more all the time
Like this.
through like tagging programs,
Uh-huh.
deep sea submersibles, even those remotely operated vehicles.
Oh, yeah, those are cool.
They can explore the ocean floor and gather data.
So every time someone sees an oarfish, it's like another clue.
Exactly, like it's a giant natural laboratory out there.
That's a cool way to put it.
And these sightings, even though they're rare,
Yeah.
give us a peek into how this whole crazy system works.
And maybe those peaks will help us understand the connection between like what oarfish do and the bigger changes happening in the ocean.
That's the goal.
So we just got to stay curious.
Totally keep asking questions.
Don't jump to conclusions.
Exactly.
Because sometimes the coolest discoveries are hiding right there in plain sight.
Absolutely.
Like you were saying before about us being like pattern seekers.
Yeah.
We see something weird, like a giant oarfish
Uh-huh.
hanging out near the surface,
Hmm.
and our brains like automatically want to connect it to something else,
Makes sense.
something bigger, especially if that something's like scary. You know?
Totally, like earthquakes.
Right, exactly.
Flying.
So it's like natural to want to predict them, you know?
Yeah.
So we feel like we have some control over these like crazy powerful forces of nature.
Exactly.
So then the oarfish is like this scapegoat
Yeah.
for all of our anxiety about the unpredictable.
It's like a symbol of all
Yeah.
our fears.
But what if instead of being scared of them or thinking they have superpowers,
Right.
what if we just like looked at them with a sense of wonder,
Yeah.
curiosity, you know?
Totally.
Like what if they're not a bad omen,
Mm-hmm.
but like an invitation to explore?
Like a doorway.
Yeah, to learn more about this like crazy world under the waves.
Like, think about all the secrets the deep ocean is hiding.
Oh, I know, right?
All those incredible creatures we haven't even found yet.
It's mind-blowing.
The oarfish is just one little piece of this giant puzzle.
Yeah,
And each time we see one,
Wow.
it's like getting a little clue.
a little sneak peek.
Yeah, into how this whole complex ecosystem actually works.
It's pretty humbling
Oh, yeah.
to realize just how much we don't know,
Definitely.
but also kind of exciting too. Like
Yeah.
there's still so much left to discover.
And those discoveries could be huge.
Yeah.
Not just for understanding the ocean, but for understanding our planet and
Yeah.
what we're doing to it.
Okay, so next time we see a headline about an oarfish sighting,
Yeah.
maybe instead of panicking about earthquakes, we
Right.
should just like take a minute
Yeah.
to appreciate how amazing it is.
Totally. Like, embrace the mystery
Right.
and maybe think about what those sightings are trying to tell us.
About the health of our oceans
Exactly. And what we can do to like protect these amazing creatures.
and their homes.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been an awesome deep dive.
It really has.
Any last thoughts for our listeners before we head back up to the surface?
Just this, the ocean is like this giant mystery box.
I like that.
And sometimes the answers are right there if we just like open our eyes and look.
Well said.
Okay.
All right, everyone, that's it for this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep your minds open to all the wonders hiding beneath the waves. Until next time.